Did I not tell y'all that things were about to be exposed in the U.S.? Do not play with China. China works with this. Things are being uncovered. There will be whistleblowers, and China is revealing to us right now everything that America has done. Take a look at this.
Americans, you don't need a tariff. You need a revolution. For decades, your government and oligarchs will ship your job to China. Not for diplomacy, not for peace, but to exploit cheap labors. And in the process, they hollow out your middle class, crush your working class, and told you to be proud while they sold your future for profit. And yes, China made money, but we used it to build roads, leave millions out of poverty, fund healthcare, raise living standard. We reinvested in our people. What did your oligarchs do? They build yachts, private jets, mansions with golf course driveways. They manipulate the market, dodge tax, and pour billions into endless wars. And you get stagnant wages, crippling healthcare costs, cheap dopamine, debt, and flag wave property made in China while they pick your pocket. I don't think you need another tariff. You need to wake up. You need to take your country back. I think you need a revolution.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm Team China right now. I am Team China. Bring it. Keep showing. Keep lifting the covers. Keep. I'm here for it. Thank you, China.
Time when you start to worry about China, China goes better.
And you wind up with a bubble, bad things will happen.
I think that you American people worry too much about the China economy. Every time when you start to worry about China, China goes better. You Americans love to spend tomorrow's money and the other people's money maybe. We Chinese love to save money. We are probably the largest country, the safe deposit in the whole world because we've been poor for so many years. When we make money, we put in the banks because someday we know the disaster is coming so we can spend the money. So when the economy is bad, we still have the money to spend. You guys probably don't. You worry.
The Prime Minister of Singapore has a chilling warning for the world. Here's a clip.
But the recent Liberation Day announcement by the US leaves no room for doubt. It marks a seismic change in the global order. The era of rules-based globalization and free trade is over. We are entering a new phase, one that is more arbitrary, protectionist, and dangerous.
Prime Minister then goes on to say that the last time there was a major global trade war, it was the 1930s, and it led to the Great Depression in the United States. And even in the 1930s, the global economy was so intertwined with the United States economy that it also, the Great Depression in the US, led to a global depression worldwide. This global depression in the 30s would, of course, give rise to fascism in Europe that would culminate into Nazism, and then it would escalate into the biggest global conflict humanity has ever seen, also known as World War II. Now, one of the most sensible world leaders in the entire world is warning that the world is barreling towards that same scenario once again.
So China has basically just told the U.S. to F off. Apparently, President Trump is waiting for a call back from President Xi to discuss the trade war, negotiate all that kind of stuff regarding the tariffs on China. And President Xi is refusing to call him back. And representatives from Beijing are basically saying that they are not going to succumb to a bully, which is how they are labeling President Trump's administration. Also going on to say that they have been around for 3,000 years compared to the U.S.'s less than 250, that the U.S. only accounts for 2% of their GDP. They're the only economy in the world that can stand toe-to-toe with the U.S., and they will be just fine without us. And in addition to the response of refusing to call President Trump back, they also decided to hike their tariffs against the U.S. to 125% in response to the 145% the U.S. has put on them, making them basically the only country that does not have the 90-day reprieve that President Trump gave the rest of the world. And with all that said, two senior White House officials have confirmed that President Trump will not reach out to China first, that China must reach out to him first, and China is like, no, we're not going to do that. Anyways, this is something that we definitely need to watch closely, and I will be, so make sure to hit that follow button if you don't already. And then drop in the comments, who do you think is right here? Do you think it's President Trump, President Xi, or neither one of them? Let me know.
Okay, so Trump just caved majorly in his trade war with China. He's announcing that he's going to exempt from tariffs iPhones and basically all other electronics. And I think whether Trump knows it or not, this really signals that this trade war is over, and Trump and the United States have lost. And the reason they have lost goes back to the fact that we don't have the cards. That's a phrase that Trump used with Zelensky in the Oval Office, where he told him, look, you don't have the cards. We don't have the cards. Because right now, we have $36 trillion in debt circulating. And the interest rate on that debt has an immediate and a direct impact on our economy. When the interest rate on that debt comes down, our economy is going to do a little bit better. When the interest rate on that debt goes up, our economy is going to do worse. We're going to have less business activity. Our economy is basically going to slow down. Typically, it's only the Fed chair, in this case, Jerome Powell, who can control interest rates. If the economy is slow, he lowers interest rates, puts more money into our economy, gets things going. If inflation is too high, then he raises interest rates to try to get inflation down, which slows the economy, but it's short-term pain for what is supposed to be long-term gain. But in that case, Jerome Powell is working for the United States. He's trying to make the economy of the United States better in the long run. Having another central banker, or a kind of an organized group of central bankers who are able to control our interest rates, means that we are at their mercy. And so what happened on Wednesday is that it appears that Japan and perhaps some other major holders of treasuries started selling our bonds. When they sold our bonds, that meant the interest rate goes up because the bond prices are lower, so you now have to give a higher yield in order to entice people to buy these bonds. Now, normally, and this is what Trump was counting on, when the stock market tanks, people move their money over into bonds. That creates more demand for the bonds, that pushes the price of the bonds up, and that means the interest rate that you have to offer people is lower. So he thought he was going to get lower interest rates for American businesses and American customers. He was going to force down interest rates, and that would make the debt that we owe when we roll it over, that would make it cheaper for us to service. That was his whole plan, but it doesn't work because we don't control that debt. People sold those bonds rather than buying into them. That means we got left holding the bag. And so now he did this fake thing where he said, actually, this was just a brilliant 4D move where I was actually going to just isolate China. And now he's realizing China has those cards too. China can sell those treasuries. Meanwhile, China is cutting deals with Europe. China is cutting deals with Canada. We are the ones that are isolated. All of this happened for no reason. The good news, if there is any, is hopefully Trump has lost this trade war fast enough that he's going to move on to other things that are less damaging to the world economy, but who knows?
So FAFO season continue. These are the results. Chinese, they're literally telling America, right, you're not going to bully us. We are going to stand on our business. We are going to protect our country. We are going to protect our business. And if you're going to add the tariffs, go ahead, add the tariffs. But at the end of the day, the people who are going to suffer are the citizens of America. The reality is, when a country increases tariffs, the people who are going to pay the tariffs is not the country you're selling the products to. What happened is, when the tariffs have been added, the companies that are producing products in the country where the tariffs have been added, they are going to incur the cost, and that cost is going to be passed down to the consumer. So the consumer are the American citizens who are going to the supermarket to buy those products which are being made in China. So you are the one who are going to pay for those tariffs, those extra prices. So when you go to the supermarket today and you realize the prices have increased by double or triple or even 10 times what you normally used to pay, then just know you are paying for the tariffs. And that is the reality. Of course, small business people are going to be affected because they cannot absorb those huge amount of tariffs. But for big corporations, of course, for them it's very easy. They can cushion themselves because they have the money, they have the capability to pay that extra cost. And unfortunately, the people who are going to be charged extra money are the consumer. So this trade war, at the end of the day, There is no a win-win situation. People are going to suffer at the end of the day. That is the reality. And of course, you might find that when you go to the supermarket, your favorite product is no longer being sold, or you might find some companies have closed down, or you might find some people literally right now they're closing down their business or their homes because they can no longer afford, or as a result of these trade wars. And that is the reality of what's happening in the ground. So are we winning? Is America being great again? Is this tariffs good for the economy? We don't know for now, but time will tell. And all we can know is, how we will know is by the citizens themselves. They will say how these tariffs has affected them. So guys, please, I'd like to hear from you guys. Drop your comments. Bye bye.